Most dog lovers out there that have a reactive dog probably are thinking that their dog just isn't listening, But what if the real problem is your dog doesn't actually know what you want? If I were to ask you right now, whatever you do, do not picture a purple elephant standing in a field of sunflowers. Don't picture that purple elephant standing in a field of sunflowers. What did you just picture? That's right. You thought about a purple elephant standing in a field of sunflowers, didn't you? Of course you did, because that's what we all do. That's exactly what most of us are doing. We're walking around and we're thinking about all the things we don't want. We don't want the barking. We don't want the pulling. We don't want the chaos. And today on the podcast, today on the podcast, we are on our fourth and final episode of the series, Conversations with Your Dog. And we're going to be talking about why you might unintentionally be creating more of what you don't want, and how getting clear and then getting out of the way might be the right missing piece. If you constantly feel like you're correcting your dog, constantly reminding them, or you have to micromanage every little thing they do, then this episode is for you, my friend. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hey there, friend. Does living with your dog feel like another chore, like something hard that you have to work on every single day? Because if so, I'm here to tell you it can be easier. It should be easier, and I can help you find it. Find that easy. Lead into the easy, friend. Will it be quick? No, it's not going to be quick. But when you start to really lean into everything that you're hearing here on the podcast, as well as get that extra support and time with me, all things are possible. Living with your dog can get easier, and you can, start to breathe again, start to feel like you're living with a partner and not a project. So if that's something that you're interested in, that speaks to you, consider joining us over inside the Fearless Framework, my 12-month online program where dog lovers like you learn to exist and love and laugh with your dog again without the constant chores. So head on over to beyondobedience.ca/fearless. That link will be in the show notes, and I will see you there. Well, hello, my dog loving friend. It is Tracy. Welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. Super duper welcome. If you're brand new, hey, nice to see you. So glad that you are here. Today is the final episode in the series, Conversations with Your Dog. At least I think it's the final episode. I thought episode 3 was the final episode. So who knows? Who knows what will happen the next time I'm thinking about things? I might come up with another idea. Who knows? If you're enjoying this, let me know. Send me a message, either in the Living Beyond Obedience group, or send me a message on Spotify if you're listening over there. Let me know how you're enjoying this. Does this make sense? Is it helpful? Because I really hope that it's helpful. I really hope that, as I mentioned, I think at the beginning of the series, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because I'm trying to find the tactical things that I do with dogs, because it's not traditionally like I'm going to do these things. I'm not out there doing drills. I'm not practicing leash, long line drills or recall. I'm not doing any of those things. And yet, life with my dog's pretty easy, she says boastfully, as her last episode shared the story of how Gunther almost took off on her. Ha ha ha. But I didn't say it was perfect. I just said it was easy. It's really, really easy. And so I want that for you. I really do want that for you. I want you to have this knowledge, not just for this dog, but like any other future dog that you have. Or if you're you're one of those incredible people that fosters dogs and does all of that great work, I want you to have this knowledge so that you can, create a space for your foster dog to feel safe and all of that good stuff. And then impart that wisdom, for that dog. Like, let that wisdom go with that dog. Share that knowledge with others. That's kind of my goal, is to help as many people as I can to just make life easier with dogs, because it doesn't have to be this struggle. It doesn't have to be this hard. We've been looking at, the wrong things for so long. For so long, myself included. I mean, I went through the exact same steps and told the exact same things, like you get a dog and you have to train them and they do obedience and you teach them this and all of those things. But the reality of it is that we have changed, right? Not only has, I think as a society, we've changed. When I was a kid, we didn't take the dogs places, we took the dogs to the cottage, and that was mostly because, one, the cottage was the best place in the world for our dogs. Our cottage was in the middle of a lake. It was on an island. So we literally could just let our dogs, we got to the island. We wouldn't see them for the rest of the week. We would see them running by and be like, do you want dinner? No? Okay, you're busy. Because where could they go? But we took them to the cottage. But other than that, it was unheard of to just be like, let's take the dog into town. We never did that. I lived out in the country. Our dogs were, quote unquote, we weren't running a farm, but they were like farm dogs. They hung out outside. We'd let them out. They wander around, they'd come in. We didn't really do a lot of training. And all of the neighborhood dogs knew our dogs, and we knew our neighbors' dogs, and we'd be like, oh, the Cassie's dog was out again. Nobody really cared. It wasn't the same. But now dogs have actually sort of melded into more family members. We've brought them into our lives a little bit more. We've started, making them be part of our social life. We're doing more things with them than ever before. We're taking them places. We've got outdoor cafes and all this stuff where we're expecting dogs to hang out with us. And at least here in North America, that's a newer thing. I say North America because, oh my gosh, my trip to England last year was so eye-opening and lovely. Just sitting in pubs with dogs. They were just there in pubs, just hanging out with people, and no dogs were fighting. So good. Anyway, I digress. The point is, we've changed, and our relationship has evolved with our dogs. We now start to see them more and more as the sentient, beautiful beings that they are. We want to put more into them. And while the dog training industry is fighting about, quote unquote, how to train them, here we're talking about how to live with them, how to share an experience with them, how to be open enough to learn their language, how to understand how our language or lack of ability to understand what we're saying to our dogs, it affects them. That's what all of this is about. So if that is your thing, friend, you are in the right place. You are in the right place. So I'd love to recap what I talked about in the last 3 episodes, but honestly, menopause, can't remember. That's the truth. I can't remember. Let me, as she looks up in the air, that's her searching her brain vault for those. So what did we talk about? We talked about, for the first one was ask until you get the right answer. And by that, I was actually talking about asking the right question, that quite often we're so worried about getting the right answer that we forget to even ask whether or not we asked the right question. The second one was about agreement and disagreement, how when we're talking about communication, it can be as simple as agree and disagree. We can make it that black and white instead of all this gray area. We can make it that black and white. But the way that we do that is we have to have that contrast. And the contrast comes with having a world full of yes, so that no stands out as something different and something for the dog to pay attention to. So therefore, it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be a big event. It just can be as simple as, don't do that. That's all it has to be. And then the last one, what was the last one we just talked about? Oh, the incongruencies between what you say versus what your body language says versus what you feel, and how those mixed messages can really disrupt a dog's trust in you because you're not being truthful in all of the ways that your dog reads your body language. And today, what are we talking about? Oh, today we're talking about the fact that one of the biggest things that us humans, we struggle so much with is in fact this idea of what we think versus what we actually say, right? This idea that we think we know what we want the dog to do, but we really don't know what we want the dog to do. Right? Because remember, dogs feel you before they see you, and they see you before they hear you. So if your mind is already full of frustration, tension, and anticipation of problems, that's what your dog is stepping into. They're not hearing your words first. They're feeling your frustration, your tension, and all of those things. They're feeling you recreating the reactivity that happened the day before in your mind. Right? You're not just thinking, you're creating a feeling that your dog can smell. And I know I keep on sort of hitting that point, but I don't think that we really can wrap our head around the intensity of how dogs can smell us, and they can smell the chemical perfume of our thoughts, right? Because they can smell stress via cortisol. They can understand that tension and frustration. So when we focus on everything that is going to go wrong, we are literally creating a picture and a feeling of chaos. And that's what our dogs hear from us, right? And one of the biggest problems is this idea of actually knowing, what do you actually want? And this comes up a lot for me as a dog trainer over the years, when I would sit down with people and be like, okay, like what's going on? And people would immediately start off with all the things that's going wrong with the dog. The dog is barking too much. The dog's pulling on the leash. The dog's jumping on people, like all of these things. And I'll be like, okay, so what do you want? And then I get this almost like, well, duh, Tracy, I don't want them to do those things. I don't want them to bark. I don't want them to pull on the leash. I don't want them to jump all over everybody. And I'm like, yes, but that's what you don't want. What do you want? And that's where there's that big pause, because people actually don't know what they want. You think you know because you're like, well, I don't want that, so I want the opposite of that. What does that look like? What does not jumping look like? Tell me that, right? Because you need to literally have a clear picture in your mind of what do you want your dog to do. And it can't be, I just want the dog to be calm. What does calm look like? Tell me what calm looks like. Picture it in your mind. What does calm look like? What do you want the dog to do? It's actually, if you start to break it down this way, it's a lot harder than you think, because when I say, what does calm look like to your dog? What does that look like? Because I'll tell you right now, calm does not look like a sit. A sit can be energized. A sit is just a position. It's not a state of mind. Right? I want my dog to be relaxed. Okay, what does relax look like? You might be able to find it a little bit easier with that. What does relax look like? What does that look like in your mind? Right? Because if you don't even have a picture in your mind of what you want the dog to be doing, then your dog also doesn't know what you want them to do. You're both just guessing. And then deciding in the moment if that's right or wrong. The reason why I say this is this came up very, very recently inside the Fearless Framework. I have been sharing inside that program my journey with Gunther. If you're just new and you're not sure, who is Gunther? Gunther is my 9-month-old. Is he 9 months now? Hold on. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 9 months. Yes. Did I use my fingers to count that? 100%. 100% use my fingers. So he's my 9-month-old German Shepherd puppy. Puppy's not the right word. He doesn't look like a puppy. He's my 9-month-old adolescent German Shepherd. And if you've ever had an adolescent dog in your life, oh, right? Oh, so hard. So hard. This is the time in the development of the dog. It's so pivotal, this moment in time for the dog, because this is the time where they're starting to come out of puppyhood. If you've got other dogs around, they have long since revoked that puppy pass. That puppy pass that dogs give puppies, which basically allows them to act a fool, and the dogs are like, you're a puppy, so I'll let that pass. That has been revoked. So now dogs, the adult dogs around Gunther, are starting to give feedback. And most of that feedback looks like, you're a jerk and get out of my face, like you're being dumb. That's what that feedback looks like. But they're not as tolerant. They're certainly not as tolerant. There's a lot more snapping, toothy disagreements in a nice way. Like they're not mean about it, but they're toothy disagreements that basically enough for them to say what you're doing right now is not okay. A lot of that is happening for him right now. At 9 months, he's got to starting to feel that testosterone. He hasn't started lifting his leg yet to pee, but I'm sure he's starting to feel it. He's starting to feel that testosterone a little bit. That testosterone, that hormone shift is going to start to change things for him. He's going to start developing more muscles and all that because of that hormone shift. All of these things to say, this is the moment where he's figuring out, where do I fit in the world? Like, where am I as my adult self going to fit in the world? Now, he's got a ways to go. He's got a ways to go until he would be like, fully developed and adulty. But this is where he's figuring out. And this is where most of us humans are the most frustrated. And we're the most frustrated because this is a testing phase. He's testing with everybody. Ask my other dogs. He's testing them hard, right? You hear it all the time. You hear like dogs being like, stop it, Gunther. Like they're telling him off. So he's testing. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? What happens if I try this? All of it's a testing phase. And this phase is literally just him. A lot of these questions are yes, no questions. They're just, what happens if I do this? And if he gets the feedback right away where he goes, that's not okay, then he goes, okay, that's not okay. He's figuring it out. Okay. So this is the hard phase. And so I have been sharing some of the things that are going on. A couple of things with Gunther to note is he's not a fan of the car. And so we're working on that, as well as just the fact that he is a 9-month-old excitable German Shepherd that likes to jump up and muzzle punch me in the face to say hello and welcome, which isn't the best. That's not how I want to be greeted. I like a little bit of excitement with the greeting. I like a little bit of, we all do. We all like a little bit of like, you missed me. And it feeds our human fragile egos. And we like it. But at the end of the day, don't need to be muzzle punched in the face. And I don't want a German Shepherd jumping on me because he's getting kind of tall. So we've been working on that. We've been working on this idea of coming out of the crate a little bit calmer. And so I was sharing a video of what I do with Gunther when he gets out of the crate. And one of the most common responses, and this is why I thought I need to chat about this a little bit. One of the most common responses from the students in the framework was, I would have stepped in sooner because I thought he did what you wanted. We were playing. Let me set the scene a little bit. So in these moments, I don't talk to him. I'm not, because as you know, I don't do a lot of obedience or any obedience with my dogs. So this is just, conversations, yes, no answers, right? And he's essentially playing the game. And the game is, how do I get the human to do what I want her to do? So he's got to learn how to get me to move my feet. That's the game. So I give him no feedback. I'm like a stone wall when it comes to like everything. Like I'm like head down. I'm not paying attention to him. If I'm doing anything, it's very calming because we are working on him being calm. And what I want is for him to be calm so that I can let him outside without him jumping on me, without him punching me in the face, all the things. So I start doing this exercise, and you'll see in the video, you see him trying certain things. It's not working. He tries something else. It's not working. He eventually goes to the door and he sits. And it was at that moment that most people in the framework were like, why didn't you let him out? Because he did what you asked him to do. And I was like, aha, but no, he didn't, because that's not what I asked him to do. I didn't ask him in my mind to sit at the door. And this is where this idea of knowing exactly what you want them to do plays a really important part in all of this. Because in my mind, I have a very, very vivid picture of what I am looking for. And believe it or not, his position actually doesn't matter. If he's sitting or if he's standing is irrelevant to me, because position is just position. I'm actually looking for a calmness and a state of mind, a relaxed state of mind. I don't want any whining. That's the first thing. He vocalizes when he's really excited. So I know that if there's still some vocalization, we're not where I want him to be. I want him to not do it and here's how you know, because the moment he when he sat down, if I had taken a step towards him, he would have immediately jumped right back up. And I could have gone back and then he would have sat and then I could have, and worked that whole thing out. But then he's learning that it's the position of his body that I'm looking for, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for him to be calm and in a relaxed state of mind, not 100% flop down the floor relaxed, but relaxed. And because I have that very clearly set in my mind, I know not to move until he does that thing. And he's going to figure that out. And he eventually did. But the comments that I got on the video were quite fascinating and pretty universal all around, was that most people were like, I think I need to actually wait a little bit longer. I think I need to pause a little bit more. And it's not about pausing a little bit more. It's about having that clear picture of what it is that you want. When you go out on your walk, if you have a reactive dog, what do you actually want? Because it can't be, I want the dog to not pull, to not bark, to not lunge. It has to be, what do you want them to do instead? Because if you're saying to yourself, what I want is the dog to be nice and relaxed, to be connected with me, to be periodically checking in with me, you will start to recognize long before the explosion of reactivity where you've lost that. You'll recognize that far sooner than the reactivity yourself. If you're really focused on, this is what I want, I'm kind of centered in myself. I'm one with the environment. I'm aware of the environment. I'm looking around. I've got my dog. We're partnered up together. We're on an adventure together. What does that feel like to be on that adventure together? Dog is walking with me, periodically looks at me, maybe looks over there and I look over there. Like we're really together in a moment. When you're like that, the second your dog stops doing that, the second that they catch a scent from way over the hill of the dog they know is coming long before you ever know, you're going to feel it. You're going to know something's off. And that's your opportunity to reconnect. That's your opportunity to try to pull them back in. And if you can't, and you can tell the dog's really focused on something up there, what's going on? Now we can go, what happens if I stop? Come back here. Why aren't we paying attention? Why aren't we going? It gives you an opportunity much earlier on. If you know that that is your goal going out, not your goal for what happens if they react, you're already behind the dog. You're way behind the dog, right? Your dog is already there in reactivity mode before you catch up to them. And then all you can think of is what you don't want. But you didn't focus on the things that you wanted long before the reactivity happened. And that's the part that will just be that one little edge that gives you that time in that moment to actually start to influence the dog. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So getting back to the Gunther thing, had I stepped in too soon, had I been like, well, close enough, right? And just let him out, I would have interrupted this process. And I would have done the thinking for him. And I would have created a dependence and a micromanagement thing that I don't want. Instead, I created a clear vision of what it is that I wanted and allowed him to work it through until he found it. Right. And again, I think the biggest problem, and I think it's just because we're all programmed to do obedience, that the end result is a position that we've trained them to be. And it doesn't have to be. I don't care if my dog is sitting or not. I really don't care. My dog doesn't have to sit every time I stop. My dog just needs to be connected to me. My dog just needs to ask questions like, hey, are you coming? Are you with me? Did you see that thing? That's true connection. That's true partnership. Me barking orders at my dog, making sure that they know how to sit, that's nothing. That's nothing. No, that's nothing. That's not how we build confidence. We don't have to build confidence by telling them how to do everything, but by letting them discover how to connect with us and how to pit that. How to connect. If you think about it this way, and this might sound a little woo-woo, I don't care, I'm going to go with it. What you're waiting for is for your dog's picture in their mind to match the picture in your mind. And when you get that, magic. Does it happen all the time? No. Obviously, you're going to flow in and out of that. You're going to get distracted. The dog's going to get distracted. All those things happen. However, the more we practice it, the more that we're aware and the more clear we are in what it is that we want, the better we are at allowing our dogs to show us that they understand what it is that we're looking for. So there you go, my friend. I think that's it. So I would just say the next time that you're out there walking your dog, I want you to pause and ask yourself two things. First thing is, do I actually have a clear picture of what I want? And the second thing is, am I giving my dog enough space to find that picture? And if the answer is a no, how interesting. How can we work on that? All right. I think that's it. I don't know. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that being the end of my series? How does that feel to you, friend? Because I think that's it. I don't know if I have any more. I mean, maybe I do. I don't know. If you have something, if you want to share something, you want to ask me something, please let me know. You know that you can contact me and leave me a voice memo. Let me know if the podcast is resonating with you, if you're enjoying the podcast. I love those things. You can do that on my contact page. Go to beyondobedience.ca/contact and scroll on down till you hit that microphone. You can leave a testimony for the podcast. You can leave me a question. We can answer the question here on the podcast, all that stuff. We can connect that way too. That's a great way to connect. All right. I think that's it, my friend. Listen, if you like this sort of thing, be sure to head on over to Apple. Leave me a 5-star written review. It really does help to push the podcast out to more and more people. If you're on Spotify, be sure to follow me over there, as well as leave me a comment on that platform, because I love reading those comments as well. And as always, my dog-loving friend, get out there today, and be the person that your dog thinks you are. Because your dog thinks that you are amazing. And so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and it's not meant to replace hands-on professional training. Ow! If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.